Hi, welcome. First official video of 2021. I know I did my New Year's resolution video, but that was technically shot in 2020. So, this is the first video that will be shot, edited, and hopefully the captions will be up when this premieres, because that was an issue that I had with the last one. So I'm trying to make sure that everything is nice and succinct and put together for this video. But welcome, it is 2021 and the world is still pretty bonkers. So I absolutely love getting books secondhand, whether I'm buying them from a thrift store or a secondhand bookstore, or I'm going online and specifically looking at the used versions of books that I want to acquire. Usually they're a bit cheaper. And if you're not a stickler for the condition of the book, they're a lot cheaper. And it's one of those things where you can also get some really neat covers. I, for example, really enjoy my cover of the cover on my copy of On the Road by Jack Kerouac. And this is from Thriftbooks, like the books that I'm going to show you in a minute. But I really like this cover, and it's not a cover that I see a lot in like Barnes and Nobles, for example, or places that sell new books. So sometimes you do get a really cool cover that also makes it worth it to buy secondhand. And I also have the pet peeve of buying books that have the "Now a Major Motion Picture" sticker on them. Like, that's how my copy of Big Sur is. And I just think it's tacky. I don't like it. I think it's ugly. I had a cousin who bought a bunch of Lord of the Rings books that he got really cheap because they had the like movie cover versions on them, but he ended up going out and buying like collector's editions with like really beautiful art, because sometimes the quality of what you're reading is really important. But when you're buying secondhand books, usually you're not gonna bet on the best quality. Now, I buy a lot of my secondhand books at Thriftbooks. This is what their packaging looks like. It's really cool and cute and fun. And I got 2 books recently from there. Naturally, both are beat-related books, because that's kind of what I've been focusing on and really trying to build a solid beat library. And both of them are about women who were involved with the beat movement in one way or the other, because that's also something that I really enjoy focusing on. Like I've said a million times, when I first got into beat literature and beat poetry, I felt like there was a lot of emphasis on just a handful of men, despite the fact that the beat movement was just so big and, you know, happened a little bit on different coasts, and a lot of beat books focus on these different groups, and I just really felt like there were other characters and there are other major players who weren't talked about as much. So those are the people that I want to learn more about and learn about their contributions to beat poetry and beat literature. So this won't be a proper or true unboxing, or I guess unpackaging video, because I'm really bad at opening packaging, and this packaging is also really difficult for me to open. But I would like to show you the new books I got and talk a little bit about why I got them and why I'm excited to read them. So this is the first book. This was in this packaging that I somehow managed to just maul apart with my bare hands without scissors. So points to me. Jenna versus packaging. Jenna 1, packaging 0. Even though this, I don't know why I'm so proud of that, but I am. So the first book, straight from the packaging, is Mañana Means Heaven by Tim Z. Hernandez. And I just finished reading On the Road. So I was on the Wikipedia page because I'm lazy, and I was looking around at this chart that's on there of all of the characters that are based off of real people. And there's a character who, in On the Road, is this young Mexican woman that the main character, Sal, gets involved with, and they're romantically interested in each other, and they start traveling around California. And I was shocked to find out that she was a real person who is also recognized and known. Not necessarily as a literary figure, but just the fact that people have acknowledged that this part of the story was definitely based in truth and that they've been able to identify this person. And this book is about her time with Jack Kerouac, and just kind of about her life. And her name is B. Franco. So, as a Mexican-American person, and especially as a Mexican-American person who kind of grew up and hearing these stories about what it was like to grow up in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s from older people in my family, I'm really excited to read this because it's just something that I'm really interested in, that I've heard of the stories of, but this one involves a famous writer, so I'm super excited about this book. I can't believe that they were able to track down the character and find out who she was based on, and also get her side of the story, because other people in the story might not get their chance to say their part and say what it was like for them. So I think it's really cool that we also get to read B. Franco's story about what happened and what her life was like. So I'm so hyped about this book. I can't believe I found a copy of it somewhere. Once again, though, I will remark that if you're not a stickler for, like, perfect mint condition books, you can usually get them pretty cheap, because, like, as you can see, like, there is some wear and tear on the jacket. But this is exactly what I expected. Like, I didn't want a perfect, pristine book. I knew that I was going to get something that was a little dinged up, and I am going to still read it and love the snot out of this book, because I'm very rough on my books, so buying them secondhand is actually a really good investment for me, because I don't feel bad about dinging them up more, because they kind of already came to me a little weathered. So I really love buying used books because of that. The next book that I got is Minor Characters by Joyce Johnson. Now, I've read a little bit about Joyce Johnson because she's in my really big Beat Down to Your Soul collection, which is just a bunch of stories and writings from various beat writers and people who were involved and kind of adjacent to the movement. And there's a great interview with her and a couple of other people who were the women in the beat movement and what it was like for them specifically. Because we also do have to talk about the fact that the beat movement was mostly in the 40s and 50s, and that kind of put a hindrance on being a woman writer, or there were certain expectations of what you were supposed to be as a woman writer. And considering how rebellious and out there a lot of the beat people were, might have even been seen something that was upsetting to see a woman, participating in drugs, participating in these adventures that they were going on and being a part of. And also sexuality, of course, was a huge part of beat poetry and why it was considered obscene. And so that was also another part of being a woman and the expectations of being a woman at the time. So I'm really excited for Minor Characters, which is her memoir about being involved in the beat poetry scene, being a part of this whole movement, being around these people. And once again, like, they're kind of considered the minor characters, the people off to the side. Once again, I had to get the one with, like, a cool cover. That's Jack Kerouac right there, and it's Joyce Johnson. And I also really just like this cover because it's also symbolic of the spotlight was on these male writers, where the spotlight was on these few central figures, while there were other people who were kind of in the background watching things happen, or even participating and being a part of the things that are happening, and still not getting brought up, still not getting mentioned. So, as we go on and learn about things, I would absolutely love to focus on these women and give them their spotlight, give them their moment to be highlighted and talked about and analyzed the same way that we do with their male counterparts. And like in the case of B. Franco and some other, poets and writers of color, once again, just kind of looking at them, talking about them, and elevating them the same way that we would with their white counterparts, and giving them the acknowledgement that they deserve, because they worked hard to create and write and do pretty much whatever they were doing, and they deserve that recognition for the work that they put into their craft. So, as per usual, I'm super excited to read this. It's a memoir. It's an account of what was happening. I just finished On the Road. That was the most recent beat book that I read, and then I took a break, and I've been reading kind of just about poetry, and I've also been I'm reading another book about writing, which I'm probably going to talk about in another video, but getting back into reading stuff about the beats, reading stuff about the movement is going to make me really excited, and it's something that I have this weird passion for. But also, on top of that, it's really exciting to read things that are nonfiction, that are memoirs and historical accounts, because I usually tend to read strictly the fiction. I tend to strictly read the poetry. It's really cool to actually read the memoirs, to really get into these people's lives and understanding what it was like for them in the scene, what it was like for them amongst their peers. So, super excited about both of these books. Got them off of Thriftbooks, which I also highly recommend if you're looking for something that's a little bit on the hard to find side. And fun fact, if you are used to buying books from Amazon, Thriftbooks is usually selling those books through there, but I don't like to shop from Amazon because they do a lot of things that I really don't agree with. So you can go just straight to Thriftbooks site, and I highly recommend that if there's anything that you like buying from Amazon, but you don't like their practices, or if there's a content creator on Instagram that you enjoy, but you don't like Instagram's practices or Facebook's practices, you can always just try to find other ways to support that creator. In my case, a business that I enjoy, because they always get my books here within the period that they say they're gonna get here. They always get to me in a condition that I expect them to be in. Once again, this one is also a little bit dinged up, but I don't mind, because this is what I expect when I buy used books, and this is what I look for when I buy used books. So, super excited for these books, super excited to read and to continue reading, and of course to update y'all as I go through these women's stories and learning more and more about this movement that I just really enjoy reading about. I don't even know what it is anymore. I just started reading this stuff, and now I can't stop. In the meantime, stay safe, stay hydrated, and I'll see you next time.